Hi whole class! Today in English we are still thinking about instructions. Can you remember when you have to do something in the right order to help you to make something or carry out a job? Okay, today we're going to look at how to plant a seed. Can you see in this apple, when you cut an apple in half, in the middle there are some seeds. Some people call them pips. Okay, let's have a little look. You will need, so these are the things you will need so that you can plant your own seed at home. Okay, this is a little bit like when you had the recipe for apple crumble, it told you the ingredients that you would need. And just like that lesson, if you haven't got these today, don't worry. Please still listen to the lesson and try to follow the instructions on the screen and understand them. So, you will need soil or compost. You can buy compost in a bag, in a plastic bag, and it looks like this. Or you could use some soil from, if you've got a garden outside, you could use a little bit of soil from your garden. But from your garden, it might just have a little worm or a little bug inside. Okay, you will also need a pot. If you haven't got a proper little plant pot, you could use a yogurt pot. You'd have to wash it out and clean it first. You'd need some seeds. Now you might buy some seeds from the garden centre or a shop, or when you cut into some fruit, you could keep some of the pips and you could use those. A spoon, or maybe if you have got some gardening things, you could have a trowel. That's like a little tiny spade. It isn't long, it's very short, and it's used for digging in the soil and planting things. But if you haven't got that, you could use a spoon or you could use your hands. As long as you wash them after you've finished the job so they're nice and clean. Okay. And thinking about those seeds from home, I've thought of three things that I see seeds. I see seeds inside an apple when I cut an apple open. But how about tomato seeds? You know when you have a tomato and there's all of those little orangey yellow seeds inside? What would happen if you planted them? Would they grow? It might take a few weeks. It might even take a month or two, but it might work. And then, look, what is that fruit? Do you know the shape of that fruit? It isn't round like an apple, is it? That's a pear. And inside the pear, you get pips, you get seeds as well. Here's some seeds. You can see them. Let's count them. Let's start at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seeds from one pear. Okay. So I had a go at writing some of these instructions and I want you to check them with me. I want you to check if I've used a capital letter at the beginning of every sentence and if I've remembered my finger spaces between my words, and have a look if I've got a full stop at the end. Tell you what I'll do. I'll just do that so we can read one instruction at a time. Okay, so first, oh, yes, I did my capital letter, didn't I? Get a pot. And I got my full stop. So that's your first thing, get a pot. If you haven't got one, you could reuse one from a yogurt or something else that you've eaten at home. 2, capital P, put in some soil or compost if you have compost. Do you remember these verbs? They sound a bit bossy, don't they? When you're telling somebody instructions, it sounds a bit bossy. Get a pot, put in some soil. 1, 2. Now it's number 3. 3. Ooh, this is a new bossy verb this week. This says place. Place is another word for putting something on top of something. Place. Place a seed or 2 in the pot. So whatever seed you've got, get 1 or 2 of them, maybe 3, and place them on top of the soil. And number 4, oh, it's another new verb. This says cover. Cover the seeds with soil. So when you put the soil in your pot to begin with, don't fill it up with soil. Leave a little space at the top, because then you can place the seeds and then cover it with some more soil. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, there is something that you can add at the beginning of every instruction that might even help more somebody who's reading your instructions. And it's called time connectives. And this is what they are. It's when people use a word like first. First, get a pot. And they might say something like this. Then, so do you remember the second instruction said put in some soil? But you could say, number 1, first get a pot. Number 2, then put in some soil. Number 3 might be, next, place a seed or 2 in the pot. And then you might have that one here. It says finally. So if somebody says finally, that means it's at the end. Finally, cover the seeds with soil. Ooh. So now have a little look at my first instruction here and see if it sounds even better. Okay, I've still put my numbers. I'm still ordering these with a number. 1. First, get a pot and clean it. Can you remember our English lesson yesterday was all about using the word and? So I've used it, put it in red so that we'd see it. Oh, and look, I've used some different colours here. I've used green for my time connective and blue for my verb. I wonder what number 2 will say. Number 2. Then put in some soil. Number 3. Can you read this time connective? Fred talk. Next. Next. Well done. Next. Ooh, this was that tricky verb. Place. Next, place a seed or 2 in the pot. And this one, can you remember? Finally. Finally, cover the seeds with soil. This time, my verbs have not got a capital letter because they don't begin the sentence, do they? The capital letter needs to go on every time connective now because that's the beginning of those sentences now. So the verb had to go second. So it just needs a lowercase or a little letter. Okay, let's have a look at some of these pictures. Don't forget, you're going to have to give your pot, your soil and seeds a little bit of water. Don't let the soil or compost get too dry because then the seeds won't grow. And in a few days or weeks, you might see something like that. These are some apple pips, some seeds that have started to grow from apple seeds, apple pips. I wonder what you might try to plant. You could have a go. If you do it, take a photo or two and send it to me. I'd love to see it, especially if you sent me one in a few weeks and showed me that they've started to grow. Okay, everyone, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.